Hi Nikki, you all right? How are you doing?
Hey, hi, darling. How are you?
Yeah,
How's
good,
that
thank
wee
you.
munchkin? I can see him in his wee
Yeah,
sling. Oh,
I'm just going to be bobbing up and down in this whole webinar. He's just had a lovely feed, so he's absolutely hunky-dory.
right, I can see his wee hand like sneaking up there.
Yeah, he is. He's just all
Yes.
happy and scrunched in there. Oh, how's your day going?
Good, thank you, babe. Good. I know. It's funny because we've been messaging each other, right? And it's like in the morning here, but for you, it's like 4 in the morning. And I'm
Yep,
like, oh, there she is. She's up feeding.
yep, I'm up for messaging. I
I
get some peace when I do that, so that's fine.
know, I know. The baby snuggles. Yeah, we're good here. It's hot. It's the heat's definitely rising. But all good. All
Good,
good.
good,
Just
good,
have to
good.
stay in the AC.
Amazing. So, thanks for popping on a call with me. I thought it'd be really interesting just to hear about your services because I've had a lot of mums come to me with postpartum problems, and especially in the UK, probably very similarly in Dubai, the services out there just aren't what they should be. And I know that your service offers a lot of support for mums postnatally with regards to their mental health. So I suppose it'd be really interesting for my mums to know why you got on this journey and what got you here, really.
Yeah, no, this is great. I love that we're working together because you know, the the aftercare, right, for a lot of parents is just lacking, I guess,
Yeah.
funding or whatever reasons. Um, so it was that brought me into this space, when I had my wee boy back in 2017, he's 6 now. But I
Oh,
really struggled. I really struggled.
I
And
remember you saying you were away from all your family, weren't you?
you were away. So I think, since then, obviously, the studying that I've done and what I've implemented, and, you know, there's so many layers to this. It's not
Yeah.
just one thing, it's never just one thing. And often, the thing you think it isn't.
Yes.
And this is why it's so interesting, and why when I finally reached out for support, Archie was 18 months old,
So
and I
late. It's late,
finally,
isn't it? And it's
yeah,
you've struggled with that whole period of that whole initial year of being a parent, which you want to enjoy. You want to enjoy your baby. You want to love your baby, and you want to look back at those with happy memories. And although there are, of course, happy memories, there's
yeah,
still
yeah,
like a bit of a dark cloud over that because
yeah.
you were suppressing probably a lot of how you were feeling. Is that
I was
right?
angry. Like,
Yeah.
mate, I was seriously angry that I was losing this time. And I think I didn't anticipate, and it's strange that I didn't, because I have experienced periods of depression or anxiety during my adult life. But I think I believed my answer was to become a mum, because that's
Yeah.
all I ever wanted.
So you thought it was going to be like almost like a fix, like a
That
plaster,
was it.
put it
Yes.
over that, and then because that's what you really wanted,
That's just
and
what was missing.
yeah,
Yeah, and I actually still believe that to a point. Like, I
yeah,
am winning the lottery now. I've got an amazing husband and I've got my boy.
yeah,
But what I didn't understand at that time was that it wasn't about him. So whenever I would Google, because we all like a bit of Doctor Google, and it
yeah,
would say postpartum depression or, anxiety can be where you don't feel like you connect or bond with the baby. And that wasn't how I felt.
no, no. So it can
How
be really
I felt.
confusing, isn't it? So
Yes.
you think it's something, but actually
Yeah.
there's multi layers to it, like almost like an
Yeah.
onion. There's so much more to it than that.
It is. And when I was looking at that and I was going, well, I don't feel like that. So maybe that's not what's happening here.
Hmm.
Um, and I realized that what it was actually my own issues, like my own self doubt or low self esteem or whatever it was, making me think that I wasn't going to be a good enough mum to
Yeah.
him. And that still breaks my heart when I say it out loud, but that
Mm.
is how it was. So when I started getting the support at that time, it was purely to get me on my feet
Yeah.
for my own personal reasons. But then what happened was this manifested where I thought, wait a minute, I can't be the only person. And I'm quite a big character,
Hmm.
and it broke me at times, but it wasn't linear. It wasn't all the time. It was, like you just said, when I think back now, I've got more good memories than bad.
Yeah.
But when I was in that space, when I was going to that darkness, it was
Yeah.
terrifying. And then
Absolutely.
this can completely blow up, can't it? We can start getting into postpartum psychosis, but that is why it needs to be managed and supported, and mums and dads as well need
Definitely.
this
Yeah.
preparation. Like, I really believe that we should be having these conversations when we're discussing starting a family, whatever way, whether you're a birth mum or an adoptive parent or whatever way it's coming into your life, before.
Yeah,
Not,
definitely.
and it's that prevention being better than cure, right? And that's why I'm shouting so loudly.
And I think also, like you touched on it, and you say your little one was 18 months. And a lot of people, I think, like I call it an 8-month drop, they get to 8 months and they're like, oh my goodness, honeymoon phase is over, sleep deprivation still happening, just about to go to work, you have a massive, massive flop. But 8 months is a long time to struggle on your own
Yeah.
without reaching for support. And I think a lot of the time mums manifest it into kind of saying, well, they're refluxy, so that's why I'm feeling low, I need to fix that. Number one, I'm sleep deprived, if I fix the sleep, I'll fix me. Number two, and you just go through these list of things that you need to fix with your baby, but actually you're not fixing yourself. And if when you fix yourself, you're fixing then ultimately your
You
baby
manage
in terms of everything, and everything just becomes easier. And I think that's why our services align so well, because I always talk about the fact that I can support you through those difficult times of sleep and reflux and weaning and all that kind of stuff. Here's the information for it. But in reality, what you need and what you provide as well, which is amazing, is just some clarity and some acceptance on how you're feeling, and just to actually go, okay, this is normal, and how do we move forward with it? And just having that one person to go, okay, this is what we can do in order to, when you said when you say it out loud, it almost becomes real. And so when you don't say it out loud, you're suppressing everything, and then parenting just becomes this really, really difficult thing,
And
doesn't
there's
it?
so much, you feel so much guilt and shame
Yes.
and fear, because and I know that there'll be other people that know what I'm talking about. When you think, if I say this out loud, are they going to take my baby?
Yeah, no, definitely. And
You're
especially,
terrified,
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
like, oh, nobody's taking your baby, darling,
no,
but you don't have that clarity. And that's why I always talk about, and that's like when you reached out and we got in touch with each other, this was like such an easy yes
yeah,
to work together, because we connected well. And it's like you say, it's our services marry each other, because I don't do, sleep or feeding. I don't actually do anything to do with the baby. I don't work with children. I am purely adult based.
yeah,
But what I feel is that if you can do that bit of personal development for yourself, you
yeah,
will build that muscle of confidence in your parenting,
yeah,
because
certainly.
it's so overwhelming. The information's there. Like, I say this all the time, having the internet is this double-edged sword, right? We have resources, we have access to information, but sometimes they're contradicting each other.
Yeah,
When it's like feeding the baby or the sleep routines or anything, and you're like, oh, but my friend here's doing it this way and this friend's doing it that way. And because you don't have clarity in yourself,
yeah,
what your values and beliefs are being a parent, it's really hard then to stand in that space.
so
And I
hard.
feel like now I'm much more confident as a mum, because I look after myself now,
Yeah.
and I
And there's
understand it.
And like you say, there's this huge pressure to be this super mom, know it all, understand our baby's instincts. And in fact, mothers don't always know their baby's instincts, and they don't always quite know what their baby wants. And that's absolutely fine. But there's this innate thing, especially on social media with the mum brigade, say there's this immense pressure to be this super mum, isn't there? And I think with postpartum rage as well, there's a huge impact of maternal rage that simmers underneath the surface for countless women. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of anger making things in being a parent, isn't there? There's a lot of screaming babies, sleep
Yeah.
deprivation, and then your childhood rears its ugly head. And it's important to know that mothers need to feel understood, and that there are many sources of multi-layered context that can trigger this anger, isn't there? And
And it's
I experienced
understanding
this
what to
too.
do with that, right?
Yeah,
It's like, how do you get it out?
yeah.
And I'll say to people, go and sit in your car and sing at the absolute top of your lungs. Like, because you're needing a release. Like, it depends what it is. Sometimes we need calming tools, right?
Yeah.
So it's about creating things that work for you, because we're all different. Like, I'm not someone who's very whimsical and goes into that meditation state, but I found a guy called Yogi Brian
Okay.
on Instagram, and he swears like a trooper. So if that is how you relate, go and check him out, because I like him because of the narratives that he uses. He's
Yeah.
doing the same things, but it's not all waterfalls and whimsical, and he's more just, right, sit down, breathe in, breathe out, and it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
And it's understanding what things work for you. It's like creating your own formula, because we're all different.
Yeah.
So I now I've got like all my bits and pieces. I know when I need to lean in. You said earlier as well, you used the word acceptance.
Mhm.
And I was talking about this. It's like two things can be true at the same time. There can be action and acceptance
Yeah.
in your current situation. So for a lot of, there's that bounce back culture, right? Bouncing back to whether it's pre-baby weight or your career or whatever it is. And I think it's okay, if you want to physically be feeling better and look after your body, you can get some action, you can get some plans, but also accept that you've just created a person, right?
Yeah,
Just
definitely.
grown a full person and like got them out of your body. Like, there's an
That's huge.
acceptance. It is, and I love of where you are. And that's a practice.
Yeah.
That's not always very easy. And again, because we're subjected to so much external stimulus of what we would, could look
Yeah.
like, how our day should play out. And I don't really know many people where it's reflective, where that is their life. It's not. It's all smoke
No.
and
And I
you know.
think like I had a really aha moment when I had Hattie, my first, who's now nearly 3, because even though I was a health visitor for 10 years prior to having Hattie, I thought, yeah, I can do this. But what I didn't take into consideration, which really impacted my mental health, was the health visitor hat and mum hat. Okay, so they're two different hats completely. And I went totally down the mumfluers fix it accounts. Right. So these accounts are not going to be anyone's calling. And I would say anyone who is doing that 3 a.m. scrolling and finding that they're changing their parenting practices from A to B to Z because you've read this, this, and this, need to kind of try and just stop. Because I think, like you spoke about, aligning your own values with your child's temperament is so important, and looking at your child and yourself as not a routine, not as a book, not as something that's a structure, one size fits all. It's actually about finding someone to work with who is going to align your parenting values and your child's temperament, marry them together and give you support. Because I promise you, those kind of sleep consultants that offer you, let's sleep train your baby in 3 days and you'll sleep through the night at 3 weeks old, are not going to fix all your problems. They
And what they're doing is they're not managing expectation. And I get quite heated about some of these accounts, right? So you and
yeah,
I utilize social media because it's a platform where we can reach and help people. So of course
yeah,
we're going to do that. But I do get quite upset with some of the accounts that I'm seeing who are businesses like us, cards on table. We are businesses, we charge for our
yeah,
services, but we're not pretending to be otherwise.
no,
But there's some of these accounts that have these narratives and expectations that just can't be met.
no.
And they're offering solutions. And I say it whenever I have a client, I offer a free consultation at the beginning. And I'll say, go and shop around, speak to all the other coaches, because this has to sit right. If you feel you're being sold to, if they are promising you solutions, get your trainers on and run.
Yeah,
Because you can't, how can you, and I don't understand how they get away with it. How can you promise someone else, that you can fix? It's not about fixing, it's about supporting and navigating and helping each other on this journey. And when you lean in and you're enjoying it so much more, but it's often so simple. It's
yeah,
not shattering, groundbreaking new modalities and techniques. In my opinion, it's coming right back to basics.
yeah,
It's cutting
absolutely.
down that noise outside, finding the people that you do connect with, And I always say talking to someone who's not family or friends.
Yes, 100%
Right. So,
objective is so important. I agree.
right, because we do wear a veil. You know, I remember when I was really struggling, we were living in Montenegro. My mum and all my family were in Scotland. And I would jump on a Zoom call with mum and she'd go, "How you doing?" I'd go, "We're all right. We're tired, but we're all right." And I
Yeah.
wasn't all right.
No.
But I didn't want for her to think that I was doing a shit job. I didn't
Yeah.
want her to worry because I'm still her baby, you know,
Yeah.
and this is the thing with the grandparents, right? It's, you know, I'm still her baby. So I didn't want her being stressed or worried about me. So all these layers. And then oh, hello.
Are you awake? I think he's dreaming.
Baby.
He's fast asleep.
Um, when, you know, I finally reached out and it was a counsellor that I spoke to, and I remember just thinking, this woman's going to resign tomorrow because it
Yeah.
just felt like I had this gobbledygook. But it's proof that we shouldn't minimise giving oxygen to what's going on with someone that you can be safe and you can do that with. So if it's yourself, if it's me, if it, you know,
Yeah.
someone who is not a family member or friend. Hi, are you coming on the Zoom call?
Oh, I think he's a bit hot.
Oh, that wee face.
Yeah,
That's the
Fred.
face I'm making just now too, because it's too hot in Dubai. And I'm Scottish and I don't do well with that. Oh, bless. Oh. I wonder if we should I feel like we should invent like some kind of counting device to see how many kisses we put on our kids' heads, you
I
know, in the first
know.
like 10 years. Because I
And
still
this
do
is
it.
raw
I keep it.
parenting right here. And that's why I said, Mum's come with her babies, because I'm going to be here with a 2 week old and I don't know what he's going to be like. I'm probably going to have to
Exactly.
shove him on the boob in a minute because he's
Yeah.
just having a dream and that's just life, isn't it? And I think, like you say, like, just going back to what you said, you put this mask on for all the people around you, and then you go, I'm fine, I'm absolutely fine. And then you go to a counselor and you're like, I'm absolutely not fine. And they're the people that you're going to confide in, aren't they? Not your mum sometimes. Sometimes they're great sources of support. My mum is, and like your mum sounds amazing too.
Yeah, she
But
is.
actually just having that objective voice and going, it's okay to not be okay and we will work through this together. And I feel like that's the joy of coaching. And going back to like your initial response of fixing, I think that sometimes, like, a mum came to me this week and said, can you fix my child's reflux? Can you guarantee that if I buy your course, you can fix their reflux? I said, anybody who guarantees a fix for anything is lying. And I think in this kind of modern society where we've lost connections, we've lost villages, we just want that quick fix because everything's too difficult, because we're managing it all on our own. Whereas actually, if, like you say, you work with yourself or myself and we have that person where we just message or kind of connect with and go, hey, this is happening, this is
Yeah.
the source of what is worrying me at the moment, then a coaching kind of package is so much more powerful than a
Yeah.
fix, because the fix will never exist. You'll be chasing the fix forever until it just outgrows itself. And I think sometimes trying to, when I was a health visitor, when I was still visiting clients, I would say, stop trying to fix it and think about managing it. And then when you manage it, you take the pressure off yourself. One,
Yes.
so in the middle of the night when he's colicky, I'm not trying to fix him because I just know he just needs a big poo. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm trying
Yeah.
to manage it in the
Yeah.
best way possible to make him comfortable, to make me less stressed, to make our cortisol go down, our stress hormone. And there are definitely strategies you can do to make that easier, but they're not the kind of things that you're going to find on Dr. Google. They're not
Yeah.
going to be the kind of
So
things
they
that you
just
find.
scare you. Don't go on Dr. Google.
No, don't go on 3 a.m. scrolling. Like, I did it and I had 10 years of experience as a health visitor. Like, and I said to my mum, this time round, I'm not going to be like, I need to get home for 12 o'clock to nap her in the cot. I
Yeah.
need to make sure she self-settles, all this kind of stuff. And none of it matters because I still just hold her hand to sleep. Like,
Yes.
inevitably, none of it mattered in the end. But I tell first time mum Holly that she wanted almost a fix as well. So even with all my experience of working with families and children for many, many, many years, nothing prepares you for motherhood. And there's no judgment for doing that scrolling. It's just that actually there are such better ways of support which
Yeah.
you invest in yourself. And I think we're both very much people professionals who want mums to invest in themselves so
Yeah.
they can better this,
Yeah.
if that
And I
makes
love,
sense.
you know, that honesty, because that's the stuff that just helps. You know, like to listen to someone like you who's had all these years of experience in that field to say, yeah, but it was different when I was a mom. Like that in itself is comforting, and that is what we need. We don't need to be, and I feel like that's the thing, that when people have a baby, we're so intent on sorting the next chapter of it, right? It's like whether it's the naps, whether it's the feeding, you know, whatever it is, it's that fixed thing. And it's like, no, just you have to go with it. It's part of the process. You have to manage the process and enjoy it. And when I reflect back, you know, Archie really kind of showed me what he needed and wanted. If I just had stopped and paid attention, you know, when I look back at him dropping naps or him dropping a bottle, he showed me, you know, but I would be taking in all this information about when he should, could. And now at 6, nearly 7, like you, we still, and we've only got one. So, you know, this obviously does make a difference. We only have one child, but we take it in turns to put him to bed at night, and we still lay with him until he goes to sleep. You know, and there's all the narrative, oh, you're making a rod for your own back. I'll take that. If that's what that you want to call it, I'll take that rod, because I
I'm
love
gonna shove that rod
snuggling
off
in.
up somebody's bum, you know,
I,
like
I love that time with Archie because it's calm at the end of the day. We
yeah.
read a book together. I get to sniff his head because he's not as squiggly as he is when he's through the day. You
I
know,
love
and
it
it
when you said that you still, when we spoke earlier, sorry to interrupt, but when you said you still smell his head, I was like, that's such an instinctive thing for
yes,
mothers, isn't it? Just sniff their heads and just be
he's snuffing
close.
him.
And and I spoke to someone else just in my train of thought this week who was a lactation consultant, and she said the same. She said sometimes when you contact nap, like said this one, and it's just time to really get to know them
Yeah, yeah.
and hear their
You're
breathing, hear their cries, hear their smells. Like you will look back at pictures and you won't get that back. And we know that now, like as mums, as who's experienced, but as a new time mum who's like, I just want to get my baby down. There are ways we can help manage that. But actually, sometimes managing your own expectation of this
absolutely.
time can
Yeah.
be just so much more powerful.
Yeah. I think understanding yourself.
Yeah.
And this is, you know, this is my thing. Like I'm 48 years old, and it's only in the last 5 years that I have really gotten to know myself better. So I would play out different behaviors. You know, we all have a story in our head of what our identity is, who we are, and what other people think we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's only since I started this, since I became a mum, you know, and I say that like on all my posts or whatever, like that was my catalyst for
Yeah.
change, because it was okay, it's time to look after myself so that I can be the best mum that I want to be.
Yeah.
But when you learn all these different things, so everything that I do goes around the premise that we all have 6 human needs, right? So we can go into that deeper, like if I'm speaking to any of you one to one. But basically, what it does is it then enables you to understand why you react to particular things, right? So I am someone who's driving human need, because obviously we're all different. So we each have one that will take precedence, right? So my driving human need is certainty. And I'm like, of course it is. I am very routine orientated. I'm very systematic. I'm very organized. I love marriage and I believe in these things. I like, you know, I'm not someone that you can call and say, do you want to go somewhere in 30 minutes? Because I'm like, oh, that's a bit flying by the seat of your pants. Right. But because I understand these things and I started diving into this, then I would put in place things that support that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Amazing.
So right now we're getting ready to do an international move. My certainty has been pulled
Yeah.
because we're in the limbo stage just now, but I understand it. So what I'm doing is, instead of resisting it and going up against it all the time, I'm allowing for it, I'm feeling it. So the acceptance in action, right? So the acceptance is that I've had days in the last few weeks where I've went, I'm going to watch Friends. Like
Yeah.
my brain needs to just decompress. I'm going to watch some Friends and I'm going to eat some Haribo, and that's it. And then
And
I'll
it
do a bit
sounds so
of action.
simple, doesn't it? But it's just
But it
actually
is,
what
yeah,
exactly what you needed at that time.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that is what, and that is how we navigate things. We don't remove challenges. We don't remove the hard times. I always encourage you to feel all the things. You know
Yeah.
that thing where it's like, just think positive and just be grateful. Like, bugger off with that.
I
No,
know, I know.
no,
Toxic
feel all
positivity
the
is
stuff. Yeah,
certainly a thing. And I think
yeah,
especially with mums, and especially with postpartum, is kind of like making sure that you have it all right and everything's Instagram friendly. But actually, that doesn't mean that many mums aren't worrying that they're not doing the best for their baby's growth and development. It
yeah,
doesn't mean that you aren't enjoying the process, but you really want to enjoy the process. You just don't know how to enjoy the process. And I think it all comes back to like going back to our first point is a lack of connection, is really a
yeah,
lack of connection with a village, a lack of connection with support, a lack of connection. You know, we get connection through baby groups, which is sometimes amazing, but sometimes, especially with me,
yeah,
it was a detriment. Like I made some incredible friends, but I also made some friends that actually weren't best for me because they made me question my own parenting, and not in a malicious way. They always mean
no,
good intent.
yeah,
But, you know, I went to baby massage when my own Hattie was, I think, 8 weeks old. And I had a mum there that said that they put their baby, he was 4 months old, into this routine. And I started questioning that. But I know that Gina Ford and routines are a load of rubbish. I even told and educated parents through 10 years of my career to say that that was a load of rubbish.
yeah,
However, Mum Holly was like, maybe I need to do this. Maybe this is something I need to delve into. And that's when it all started. So it's being very wary of that. And I think that's where like it's so lovely that we can both come in to work with, because you can then message one of us and go, hey, this happened. I'm
yeah,
questioning myself. This doesn't align with my values.
yeah,
What do you think of this? And, you know, and that's fine if you want to sleep train your baby. You want that routine because it's part and parcel of your own psyche, like you say, control, and it makes you feel better. Fine. That is absolutely okay. We can work with that. But if it's not, we can work with that mindset as well. And I feel like that's where the importance of a coach really comes in, because it's just the beauty of it. And like you say, it's stripping it back to bare basics and really just thinking about what aligns with you, what's
yeah.
most important for you, and going with, and you can question your instincts, but it's almost having that person to say, hey, can I just clarify this with you? Because am I right
That's
in thinking
it.
this?
Because you're also allowed to change your mind. And I
Yeah,
think that's the thing. Sometimes we set ourselves up believing that we will be a parent who does X, Y, and Z, but then the reality is different.
yeah,
And that's okay too, but we kind of stand in our space, because if we shift that, are we changing our identity? Are we doing something
yeah,
wrong? So you're right. It's speaking to someone else who has, the privilege of perspective,
yeah,
and saying, well, and encouraging you to really dig in and go, well, how does that make you feel? How does that feel in your body right now? Because if it feels like it's a good thing, and then great, crack on. But
yeah,
if it's feeling uncomfortable and you're just not sure, then maybe you want to look at that,
yeah,
and figure out what makes you feel comfortable in your parenting journey.
yeah,
And it's amazing
absolutely.
how many people do change, like their careers. I was at an event a couple of weeks ago, and it was some of the ladies here who are fantastic. And, one of them, she was huge career woman, in the corporate world, and now she's set up a platform to bring community together. So exactly what you're saying. We
Yeah,
do live in a world now, I guess, because travel is more accessible. So people are living overseas or in different parts of the world. So that connection and proximity to their own family and friends changes.
yeah,
Even the fact that everyone's got their face on a phone, that impacts how we connect. And I often talk about this in the morning when I go out and walk. I leave my phone at home, And I say good morning to anyone that I see, and it's brilliant because sometimes you see people getting so uncomfortable they don't know what to do because this new person just said good morning. But then you'll have other ones where that connection kicks in, and it's brilliant.
Yeah,
You know? But I do think
definitely.
it's really important, that connection with others around us, you know, for that support, because it can feel isolating, right? When you're
Definitely. And I think in the UK, like a health visitor, the whole point of the health visiting service initially is to have that mum friend and to have that one person that you can go to who's evidence-based, who sings from the same hymn sheet, who's kind of like going to support you. But and probably the same in Dubai, the cut of services and the government. And I hear a lot of mums say, oh, thank you so much for reaching out to me on Instagram, because actually my health visitor was rubbish. I never even saw a health visitor. I never got a health visitor. A health
yeah,
visitor didn't exist. And so it's mums are just not knowing where to, I find, know where to go. And
yeah,
then when you're exposed to this wealth of knowledge online, and like you say, kind of like all of that, it's like, who do I believe? Who do I go to?
yeah,
Which person do I trust? And everything that we do within our company is completely evidence based. So it's not going to be an opinion of mine. I won't, give you an opinion on, say, oh, it's okay to do this because no one died from it recently or something like that. I
yeah,
would say, because I had someone reach out to me once and say, oh, I don't agree with this because actually we've been given purees for years and it's been absolutely fine. I said, well, that's exactly the attitude that I just don't have, but I don't ever tell you what to do with your baby. So
yeah,
it's probably like you, like, here's the evidence and I will coach you through whatever you want to do, but I'm
yes.
not here to tell you how to be a
How to do
parent.
it.
I'm not going to
No.
come into your house and start dictating
Yeah,
or
and people do have opinions. Like,
yes.
I remember being in the States, like when Archie was a baby. So Kevin, my husband's American. So we were over visiting the family. We went to the supermarket and we were standing in the aisle with the little fruit pouches, right? Which my son still eats now. But I was standing there and this woman came over and she said, you know, you really shouldn't give them. And I'm thinking, where did you come from? I don't remember asking you, right? But people do. So I often
Yeah,
say, you're going to have to build the ability to smile and say thank you, because people are coming from their perspective. So they're not wrong.
they're
It's
just trying
just
to help, aren't they?
a
But it's just
different one
not
from
helpful.
yours. Yeah,
No.
and it's, you know, so you have to create the boundaries because we can't
Yeah.
stop everyone else. So we have to lean into ourselves and go, okay, smile and say thank you. Some of it you will take, and actually it'll be good advice, or it'll be something that you go, oh, I've actually never explored that.
Mm,
Some of it will just, you'll know straight away that's not what you want to do for your family. So that's fine. You smile and say thank you,
yeah.
you know. But I think because we're in such a kind of fragile space, especially in those early days, that we take everything as gospel, right? And we process it and then we feel what we feel about it, you know. And I'm always like,
Definitely.
just be aware that you don't have to take everyone's advice. You can't.
No, no,
It's just,
absolutely. And I had a call with someone recently who, a mum, who just said, my in-laws just come in and they just start telling me everything, and I just want to be able to know what's right that they're advising me, and they're just meaning it in all well intentions, and what's not quite right, and what I can say, well, actually, we're not doing that, with clarity and confidence. And I
yeah,
think it's about having that, isn't it, as a mum? And just, I think that's what a lot of mums have lost, is this clarity and confidence in what's right, because of the wealth of knowledge and
yeah,
resources that are out there in Instagram and Facebook. And it's about kind of honing in on, okay, because she just said to me, all I want is somebody just to message and go, this happened, and is this okay? And
yeah,
that was perfect. She'd got it on, she hit the nail on the head in terms of what kind of desires that she wanted out of the program. But
yeah,
a lot, but I think there is still, unfortunately, that kind of like fixed culture, and you go, oh, okay, maybe I will give a rusk in a bottle because they'll sleep through the night,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of like, that kind of attitude. But again, you will get like the unsolicited advice
yeah,
all the time, especially from the older generation. But like you say, you're in such a fragile state
yeah,
as a postnatal mum that you will go home and probably overanalyze that for a good old week. And that well-meaning comment from Geraldine down the road is probably going to stay with you
I know.
for a
I
long
know.
old
I
time.
had an issue with, it was an older gentleman. When we were in Montenegro, we're sitting having a coffee outside, and Archie was sleeping, and this guy came up on his bike, and he's, oh, hello, and how's the little one? And he looked in and he said, oh, he's getting big. And he made a reference, I can't remember his exact words, but he made a reference to breastfeeding, right? And I said, oh no, he gets a bottle, whatever. And he said, why ever not? And my husband, like, physically, like, turned in his seat because he thought my wife's going to actually explode just now, because it was this, you know. And I just said, I didn't really think that's anything to do with you. You
No.
know, like, I can't justify my choices to, you know, this 70-year-old man that doesn't really know us that well. Like, and that was when I started realizing, yeah, people just have things to say, and you have to manage that. Because if you take all of that on, you are just going to, you know, impact your own feelings.
Yeah.
So you do have to learn to kind of go, okay, yeah, thanks for that advice.
I know. And that can be really hard when you've had very bare minimal sleep, 2 hours. You're already probably feeling guilty and terrible for lots of different reasons for not breastfeeding potentially. You know,
Yeah,
those feelings, there's a lot of guilt behind all of
yeah,
that, even though even if it is your choice, you're still
yeah,
bombarded with that guilt.
yeah,
And you know, there's a lot of that on top of everything else, like almost like a Jenga stack. And then all of a sudden this old man goes, oh, why ever not? And it's just the
yeah,
icing on the cake, isn't it?
yeah. And you
um
get into trouble. You can't hit old people. You get into trouble for doing that.
I know, and I think then people and then people will wonder, you know, why we're quite ragey and almost like really
Reactive.
fragile and reactive. And there's just so much behind the scenes, isn't there? In terms
And
of
that's it as well, like finding someone, when we're talking about, you know, finding the support that works for you, you know, I always say it's not about scaremongering or sugarcoating. And as much as, you know, we talk about how dark, you know, maternal mental health can be, and but I often use humor in a lot of what I'm doing, because I'm like, I'm not here to join you in this dark space. I'm here to give you a bit of light in there.
yeah,
Oh, so it's finding somewhere as well where they don't just bombard you with the darkness, you
yeah, it's like
know,
raw, realistic, and
because it's
almost
all different things at once, isn't it?
yeah,
You
it's
know,
so much more. And I think that's really hard to find, which is so nice about your services, because sometimes you will get, like you say, you will go into, if you are feeling quite low and you do get that support, and then it can be feel all very encompassing and dark, whereas actually you're going to feel a little bit worse before you feel better. But
yeah,
sometimes it's about, like you say, if you're having that really angry day, about even, like you say, just going in the car and just giving your someone to give you permission to just do certain things when you have a baby that are completely out of character for you, and you go away thinking that's going to make me feel really stupid, but actually that's made me feel 10 times better. It's just those
yeah,
little nuggets of advice and information which can be invaluable. And you, like you say, you're not going to get that from scrolling and Dr. Google and
yeah,
all that kind of stuff. And I think that's what's so lovely, is that you're like so realistic in terms of your approach, and you're really raw in terms of who you are. You're like, this is me. We, you know, you need to align with someone to work with them, but equally you're also just thinking about that individual and what's going to work for them. Because if they're going to go down this slippery slope of kind of feeling really dark all the time, you don't want to be kind of delving into that deep. You're going to be wanting to lift them up during that parenting journey,
yeah,
not to suppress it, but almost like you're going to witness that and kind of
yeah.
pick that out and then start to work with it individually, which is so lovely.
And it's about working, you know, hand in hand with the medical world. And, you know, I think we spoke as well about, you know, medication, because there's always this big conversation around medication. And I love to just quash that and say, do you know, everything has its place. It depends how you feel
Yep,
about it. I have personally taken medication twice in my adult life.
yep,
I weaned off it because people have this fear that they'll become addicted, or, you know,
yeah,
because sometimes that is what's being shared. You know, I did it under the supervision of my doctor. It took maybe a year to come off of the medication because it was a slow process.
yeah,
and it did what it was meant to do. You know, I always say it should be married with alternative therapy, like talking or, you know, doing some personal development, because I think what happens is we put our full hope or expectation into that one thing.
Yeah.
And it's not one thing. That's not going to do it all by itself. You have to also, you know, assist that. And that was where I started to change things for myself. So anything that I talk about, I do it, I still do it. If you go down to my fridge, you'll see that I've got my worksheets up there for the week. I don't try and bombard anyone with new modalities and breakthrough techniques if I have not studied or implemented in my own life.
Yeah. And that,
You
but
know,
that sometimes it's like you say, it's just stripping it back to bare basics. So parents can enjoy their parenting journey with a reliable source to turn to with their answers and support and face challenges, and cherish their moments with their baby
yes,
and stop second guessing themselves or their
yeah,
time and trust their own parenting choices and their instincts, which is so important, which I think you do really, really well. And I think, you know, it's interesting because you will focus all on mum, and a lot of my services is on mum, but equally it's looking at baby and managing that as well. So it's just like really nice to kind of bring them
yeah,
two together. And yeah, it's so important to kind of be like that raw, realistic parenting coach that you said about. And also, like you say, these are practices for life. So even though parents might not want to join my program because they go, oh, I'm already weaning my baby, so I don't need that part of the course, but I really need support on sleep, then it's actually about, okay, well, don't look at the weaning bit, that's absolutely fine, but we can focus on sleep. And it's like mum's coming to you and going, actually, I've got this bit covered, but actually there's still this little bit to do. And that's the joy of it, isn't it? You've got these online resources, but equally you've got this one-to-one support to offer as well, which could be
I think
on
that's good,
anything. Yeah.
is because we're all different, right? It's
Yeah.
like, you know, when I started this, it was initially so that I could do this, so that I could talk to people. And then I started thinking, but not everyone wants to talk. You know, we're not all chatty Cathys like me. And I think it took me 18 months. And I am someone who wears her heart on her sleeve and I'm very open. So when
Yeah.
I think of that, I'm like, yeah, there was a reason why I didn't, you know, just reach out. And that was when I looked at doing the digital resource. So like you know, it's both that we're offering. It's a safe space so you can talk and you can get those conversations, but also having these resources that you can tap into with discretion or, you know, self-paced. You're
Yeah.
not being rushed through it. And I think that's really important because as much as there's a lot of courses and things out there, they're often time sensitive or, you know, and it's like looking at these and going, right, figure out what's going to work for you in your moment, you know, where you are.
So
Um,
with your one-to-one packages, what does that look like?
so I always do a free consultation first to make sure that we connect. And if or to make sure I'm the right person, because if someone's coming on to me and it's more about what they want support with regarding the baby, well, that's not what I do.
Yeah.
So that's when I would say you want to be checking out Holly's work, you know, and doing that signposting. I tell people all the time, you know, based on the demographic, I'm like, whatever you need, message me. I know so many people here now, so I can
Yeah.
always signpost. So I'll do the free consultation first. And then if we go into sessions, I do a package of 4 because when I was looking at coaches and what they do, it depends what your area is, right? So I know that for coaching, a lot of it involves accountability, and so they'll make you sign up for 12 weeks. And I was thinking, yeah, but that doesn't really work for me because I'm talking about helping people who can't be held accountable for brushing their own teeth sometimes.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make sense to me. So I've kept it at 4 packages. It's not about client retention. I'm not here to try and keep you for 6 months or a year. I'm here to throw you a lifeline
Yeah.
and just help you get on your feet. And if you need me again later, then fine, come back.
Yeah.
But it's not about the business aspect of trying to client retention, keep them coming. You know, I don't want you to be dependent on me. I just want you to feel a wee bit more dependent on yourself.
Yeah, amazing. And then
That's
you've
it.
got your passive course as well, haven't you, where
Yeah. So
people
my
can
wee
just do
course,
that.
I love my course. That's like my other baby. Stepping into parenthood. And it's still really important to me. And the premise of it, if you changed wording, it's for everyone. I've had people who are not parents do the course and taken value from it, because really what it's touching on is identity, values, beliefs, and very practical things like your environment, your external stimulus, the things that we just sometimes don't realize are
Yeah,
feeding our thought process, because everything comes from our thoughts, right? Our thoughts become
absolutely.
our emotions, become our behaviors, and that is how things go. And when you understand that, you almost can be like the gamekeeper, you can actually help yourself with your thought process. I'm so aware now. I know when I'm spiraling, because I still do.
Yeah,
You know, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm like Mary Poppins now and never a bother. I still have times. But because I understand it a bit better, and I allow myself to look at it and go, okay, what's going on? What need am I not meeting? What is it that's impacting me? And then I can, help myself, because then I understand what I need to put in place at that particular time. So like we said earlier, sometimes it's just friends and Haribo and I'm
yeah,
sweet. An
yeah,
early night, if someone can let you sleep, if it's because that is a huge thing, I think, the lack of sleep for a lot of people.
massive. Yeah.
And people say sleep when the baby sleeps. I never did. If
I
I
mean,
could go
how
back,
can you
yeah,
do
I
that?
probably would have, but I had stuff to do,
Yeah,
people. Tapping into resources, being in Dubai, this demographic, there's an awful lot of a culture of bringing in domestic help, for cleaning the house, and there's a lot of nannies, and that's not something that we've tapped into as a resource. But looking at things and going, right, could somebody come and clean the house once a week for me just
yeah,
now? Like remembering that it's temporary. I
yeah,
think when we're in a moment, we feel like that is our life forevermore, and it's not. It's going to shift again.
definitely.
Maybe it's a meal plan, tapping into one of these companies now that bring the food for you. It's prepped. You just have to cook it, a stir fry, whatever. All of these little things. Figure out what works for you, what you can do. Looking at your budgets. That's a
Yeah.
huge, huge area. Is money.
And I think also it's, thinking about money, it's a lot of people say to me, oh, I can't invest that much in myself. I can't do that much with the program. But I think actually it works out, I think my program about £13 a day, which
Yeah,
what do you spend £13 a day on? A coffee,
yeah.
a chocolate bar and a coffee and a drink at the garage, and you don't flinch, do you? Or you buy a nursery set for £2,000 and you end up, just never using it because baby
I know.
co-sleeps. And I think sometimes people forget to just invest in themselves, and that is the best investment you could possibly give yourself, is to invest
That's,
in
yeah.
yourself.
I
And
think it's still that thing thinking it's selfish,
yeah,
right? Still that voice, isn't it? And it's like, no, it's not. It's the best investment you'll ever make, because it'll
yeah,
change everything.
everything else will become so much clearer. And with your package, like you say, if you had just a month's worth of that support and that changed your life, that is
Yeah,
worth every penny, isn't it? Because that your happiness and your peace as a parent is priceless. Because there's a lot of talk of you'll never get it back, enjoy every moment, and we're not saying enjoy every moment. It's more
no,
about, okay, I'm not enjoying the moment, so how can I make this better? How can I
yeah.
make it manageable? How can I
It's
make today
selfish.
an
No,
okay day where I just don't know how I'm going to get to 7 o'clock when they're going to go to bed? Because I have absolutely had those days where I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get through today. Like today is just awful. But if I had someone, which I did when I had Hattie, which transformed my life, and texting them and saying, hey, this is like, I don't know how I'm going to get through today, it was amazing. So it's just about having that support, isn't it, in terms of that
it is.
investment in yourself is
Yeah.
so important. And like you say, cost is such a big thing, but it really isn't when you break it down. And I think what we spend our money on we definitely have room, like you say, to get a cleaner. People go, I can't afford that, but they'll get a Starbucks every day. That Starbucks every day will pay for your cleaner. It's just about kind of thinking about things in that way, and really
Looking
investing in
after.
yourself. Yeah,
And
definitely.
I did the same, you know, and I am living proof that just making that decision will and can change everything. You know, when
Yeah.
I spoke to that counsellor, that was my first step. The second thing I did was a friend of mine who was a coach was holding a retreat. And this was like 10 minutes from our house. And I was like, oh, I did that, shut it down before I even started. She changed my life.
Yeah.
You know, because we made the decision. My husband said, I think you should go. And we're 10 minutes away. If you have to come back for the baby, you know, because he was trying to manage my anxiety. And I said, right, okay. And I went and I did these couple of days with the coach. And it was, again, it wasn't anything massive. It was the smallest things. And I will never, ever forget, it was a week after, and I was sitting by the water and I just remembered to breathe.
Hmm.
That is how simple it is. But it's because she had just shifted my mindset ever so little.
Yeah.
I always use this kind of chat, right? If you play golf and you keep hitting the ball too far over to the left, you're not going to have a golf coach come in and make you turn 90 degrees, right? The golf coach is going to come in and he's going to go, do that. And it'll be the smallest shift, but all of a sudden your ball's going onto the fairway. Right. So if you
Yeah.
think of it in that regard, that was what it was like for me. She didn't do anything insane. It was just, she reminded me to breathe. And it was at a time when I needed to be reminded.
Yeah.
And
Love that.
it is. And that is what I'm paying forward. And I know that that's what it is. You know, when I have calls with people or I speak to them when we're out and they go, God, I just feel better, Nikki. And you're
Hmm.
like, yeah, I know you do. I know you do, because they're giving it oxygen and they're saying it to someone who gets it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
what you and I are doing in the world, right? We're just paying it forward because we get it. And we
Yeah.
also happen to have the academics at the back of it to support what we're doing, right? You know,
Yeah, I used to do a fussy babies colic workshop when I used to do face-to-face workshops. And I had one client come to me and she had a baby that just screamed at her. Look at his head. What is he doing?
I know he's properly trying to get up and get a chat on the Zoom.
He is. And she said to me, she goes, he just screams at me for 3 hours every night. Now, 3 hours is a long old time when you're looking at a screamy baby. And we just spoke about it for an hour and she texted me and we had a few conversations and I saw her again at my weaning group. So she came to my weaning group afterwards and she said, you changed my life. It was just this tiny little bit of advice that I'd given her, this little nugget of, there were a few things we normalized, there are a few things we changed, there are a few strategies we put in place. And it wasn't anything magical. It
No.
was, but she said, I just feel so, and I felt so much better after that time. And I suppose it's just honing in on those kind of little tiny little tweaks like you spoke about the golf club, which is lovely analogy. I really like that because it's so true, because it's those tiny little changes that we just have to navigate as parents, and that is what is going to make all the difference. And I think that's why when people say I can't invest in this because it's just this, and I said, but this tiny little thing you're never going to find,
Yeah.
and you will find it here, and we will resolve your journey as a parent because of this, which is just so priceless in a
I
way.
know. And I think people have to be ready too, don't they? That's the
Yeah.
part, you know, and that's why I can't sit and do a sales pitch. I can meet you where you are, you know, but sometimes people are going to resist it
Yeah.
for their own reasons, you know,
You've
and
got to
it is,
want it. You've got to want the change.
yes.
You've got to want the
And
help.
you've got
You've
to
got to
be
want it.
prepared to do some
Work.
tweaking in your life, right? So
Yeah.
I have changed. I always say to people, if you met me 15 years ago, you know, I was Nikki who hairdresser, smoked like a chimney, drank like a fish. You know, I was a bugger. I was out all the time. And now, if you come to my house, I'm in bed by 9:30. I've not had a cigarette since the day I found out I was pregnant. I don't drink anymore, which was, it's not a massive intentional thing about, you know, being sober or being dry or any of that stuff. it's because I started to understand that it wasn't supporting my mental well-being, so it
Yeah.
had to go.
Yeah.
And it's just that I choose not to drink more than I choose to drink now.
Yeah.
And again, you know, when we're talking about the things we see online, and there's like these mummy wine culture type ones that are like, I mean, I've done this. I've put out a post about this topic and people had feelings. Like, you
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
all
Yeah.
judgmental, and I was like, you're not reading this properly. I'm not judging anyone. You know, one of my best friends in the whole world, she's got 2 kids now. She's never dropped the ball. She's still parties, but she's happy. She's all right. I'm
Yeah.
like, come on. What I'm saying is, if you're struggling, don't go to a bottle of Prosecco and think that's your answer.
Yeah.
Oh, and you have to be honest with yourself. And when you start doing that and you make those little shifts, you know, I feel so much better because I don't contribute to my mental health problems. You
Yeah.
know, I support them. I don't contribute anymore. And that's the difference. These habits and just shifting, and it does make a massive difference in how you play out. And then you start playing out as the mum you want to be, and
Yeah.
that's wicked, you
That's
know.
worth it. And exactly. So I think, like, should we maybe call it a day there?
Yeah, we could be on here all night, girl.
All night, absolutely talking about it. But I suppose the message is out there that, you know, we are here to support you with what you would want support with, not to fix your problems, in terms of a quick kind of plaster. And there's reasons behind this that we spoke about, isn't there? So it's we don't advocate for that, and no one else should. And if, like you say, anyone else is, then run a mile. Okay. And if you ever want, so what we'll do is I'll put this in an email for everybody. We'll put the links in for your page and my page, and then if
Yeah.
anybody has any questions, just reach out to either of us and we'll be in touch. Because we were supposed to have quite a few mums on the call today, but I think with mum life, as it always is, it's busy.
Yeah.
But that's why we recorded it, so we can send it out to everybody today. So if anybody has any questions for myself or Nikki, please feel free to reach out, because today was the opportunity, but we appreciate that mum life is crazy.
Ollie, thank you so much for having me, darling. You're doing a great job there.
Thank you. I will just stop the recording now. Thanks, Nikki.
Yeah.
Bye.
You guys.